I'm writing this out of pain and loneliness, just to let it out. Is this how it is for all elderly people who don't have a big inheritance? Do we all end up alone, even when our children are still alive? I live in a small town, not far from the capital, in my own house. I've been retired for years and mostly survive off my garden. The days are long and quiet, and though I try to keep busy, there's a heavy silence in the house that never goes away. My son lives in the city. He got married 14 years ago, and my granddaughter is now 10. He didn't visit often, but he always helped me financially. I never wanted to be a burden. His wife and I were never particularly close, but we exchanged polite greetings, wished each other well on holidays, and asked how things were going now and then. Until recently, I thought I was lucky with her. She was always polite, calm, and she seemed to love my son. At the beginning of summer, my granddaughter had a birthday, and I decided to visit. It was an important milestone after all, and I had something to discuss with them in person. I told them I wanted to sell my house and buy a small apartment closer to them. I explained that it was getting too hard to live alone in a house without a man, and life would be easier in the city. I knew my house wasn't worth much, but at least the sale would cover a down payment. I didn't care whose name the apartment was under. My son's, my granddaughter's, it didn't matter. I wasn't asking for money. I just wanted to be closer, to feel like I still had a family around me. My son immediately waved his hands and said there was no need to sell anything. They had plenty of extra apartments. He said they would ask their tenants to move out by fall, and I could come live there. He was right. They owned 3 properties, 2 of which they rented out. But then my daughter-in-law gave me this strange little smile and said, "First of all, you can never have too many apartments. And second, those apartments don't belong to us. They belong to me." And then she added, "If your son wants to take out a mortgage for his mother and put her on full support, fine, but then we'll live with separate finances. And I don't want a mother-in-law living next door, making him run over there every weekend." I didn't expect that. I tried to reason with her, to tell her you can't be so cruel, that we had always been on good terms. My son stood up for me, but she just shrugged and said, "Who am I to stop a grown man from making his own decisions? If you want to pack your things, go ahead." My son fell silent. When he took me to the train station, he apologized and said he just couldn't afford to support both his family and me. He told me to stay where I was, back in my house. I looked at him and said, "Son, this isn't about a mortgage. Your wife doesn't respect you. She throws property in your face. She wants nothing to do with your mother. You have a daughter growing up. What kind of person will she become with a mother like that? Kids see everything." His face darkened, and he pressed his lips together. Then he said, "What are you asking me to do? Leave my wife? Take my daughter and move back to the countryside with you? Or should the 3 of us squeeze into a tiny apartment with a mortgage?" And that's when I snapped. I shouldn't have, but I did. I told him, "And what do you want me to do? Go back to that empty house and wait to die? Should I just lie down in the garden and let myself go? Or wait for the roof to collapse on me? That house has been falling apart since your father died. No one helps me fix it. I can't afford to hire workers, and you never have time." My son gave a dry laugh and said, "Guess my wife was right. If it's about money, just say so. If you need more, just ask. We wouldn't refuse." That's when I realized there was no point in talking anymore. I just shook my head. It was never about money. I just wanted someone to care. After that, my son stopped sending money. He doesn't answer my calls anymore. And I can't understand. How can someone do that? Every day I wake up and go through the same routine. I water the garden, sweep the porch, make tea for one. The house is quiet. Too quiet. Sometimes I leave the radio on just to hear another voice. There was a time when this home was filled with laughter, when my son was small, when my husband was still alive. We had dreams, plans for the future. I never thought I'd grow old like this, counting the days, waiting for a phone call that never comes. I don't want to be a burden. I just wanted to know I was still part of my family, that I still mattered, that my life still had meaning. But now, I'm not so sure.